Hello, we're going to paint our He is Risen oval decor piece today. And I'm going to start with the background. In your kit, you will have some white paint and hopefully a roller. We've been trying to source rollers for our kits for these. I'm going to kind of dump not even quite half of that for starters on there. And I'm dumping it right on the cross. This cross outline part is just our scoring line to glue later, so you won't see this, so it doesn't hurt to go there. So I'm gonna get the roller started in that section because I want to come down here where my words are and be able to roll over them without a lot of excess paint on my roller. So I'm kind of just gently rolling back and forth just to get color on there with a pretty dry roller. I don't want to ooze any paint down into the engraving. If that would accidentally happen and you would lose the definition of that word, you could take the included paintbrush and sort of quickly try and get some of that out of there. And if you can't, let it dry and go back with the brown and kind of touch up inside the letter. And once it's dry, then touch up with the white if you have to. So again, each time that I get fresh paint on my roller, I'm rolling it out to use it up on my roller. But then once my roller's pretty dry, I'm going back over here where my words are, just so that I can get coverage there without a drippy roller. Okay, I'm gonna kind of turn this around just to help myself here during the video. At home, when you're painting, you might want to start from the top and come down. Really, it doesn't matter. You just want to get this covered. If you drip over the edges, you might want to try and wipe that off while it's still wet. Once you put the frame on and the two pieces are together, you might see a little bit of a white line there. You could sand that gently or add a little paint to it to cover it up. I'm gonna add one more little section of paint here. I still have quite a bit in my cup, plenty that I can go back and use for touch-ups. All right. Okay, so pretty happy with that. I'm gonna flop it around and just even out my roller marks here with a little extra. We're gonna be painting over this with our sun rays, so it's not critical that it is exactly perfect. You do see some of the grain show through from the oak. We wanted to use oak for this project because it gives such a nice look to the cross once it's stained. So, all right, so I would set this aside until it's dry. You want to touch it with your hand and make sure it's not cold, because if it's cold, that means there's still moisture in it and it's not 100% dry. Okay, so that's your first step, doing your base. And then we're going to move on to our stained pieces. So you have a small container of gel stain, and I would highly recommend using a baby wipe or a wet paper towel squeezed out so it's just damp. You're going to get a little bit of that gel stain and you're going to apply it. I try and go with the grain. It is water-based. It will wash right off your hands. If you need to see the information for that, I can certainly show it to you, but this is just a water-based gel stain. Hobby Lobby sells this in small containers. It's walnut in color. It's my favorite stain that we use for our craft projects. So I'm just getting my cross done. I like to use the baby wipe because I feel that that tiny bit of moisture in the baby wipe gives you some, what's the word I want? You can move it around. It gives you that little bit of maneuverability. So that's really all there is to the cross part for now. We're going to add a couple details once it dries. And then you have your oval frame. Same thing. I'm just taking a small amount of that stain on my baby wipe, and it's a fairly quick and easy process. And we're just zipping it around here. And there you go. If it dries and you see you've missed somewhere, you can always go back and add a little more to it. So we have our background, we have our frame pieces. I already put paint onto our cloth. I actually went over this twice with the purple because the paint seems to soak right into that oak, and I felt like it needed to coat. So it looks a little plain right there. I'm going to take a little bit of my brown and a little bit of my white, and I'm going to come in and just add a few little like lines to kind of represent the folds in the cloth. And I know that looks really bright there, but we're gonna mute it up here in a minute. With the top part of the cloth, there is a scored line here. You can kind of sort of follow the shape, adding in some lines here. I'm gonna come back then with my baby wipe, and I'm going to kind of just go over that a little bit. You can see how it like darkened that up right away. Just giving it that 30 seconds to dry sort of, help keep the white in place, but the baby wipe sort of darkens it up a little bit, so it doesn't look so bold. Now that white might have been not quite dry. But you can play with this and see, what shading you like. You can come back with some of the brown and kind of add some additional, marks where the cloth would have draped. Kind of shade it in, maybe shadow. Too much white there. The sides would be a little darker, maybe where they're getting shadows from the cross. I can even grab a little bit of my purple and come back with it. So that'll need a little bit of time to dry. So you're gonna want to, sometimes I use my fingers. You're gonna wanna set that aside and let it dry while we do our sun ray. But you get the idea. Mine is showing up pretty boldly in the camera. It's not quite so bright when you see it in person. And you can always go back. Say you feel like you got too much brown, go grab some purple, too much white, and just go over it a little bit. But just play with it. You certainly could leave it solid purple, but I like the idea of shading it so that it looks a little more realistic as it would drape when it hangs. So, play around with that and do some shading, highlighting that makes you happy. A little too much, but yeah, it's artistic. You take your time and play with it, and I'm gonna quit talking. All right, so I'm gonna set that aside. And for the fun part, I previously painted another oval so that it would be dry, and we're going to just take the sandpaper that's included in your kit, and I'm just going to go over this just real quickly, just to smooth it out a little bit. It will help for our sun rays to flow a little bit better. Okay. I picked up a little bit of paint there somewhere, probably on my finger. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna flip this so that I'm kind of brush stroking towards me as I paint. I kind of get the angle that works for me. So my sun, I want to have kind of down in this bottom corner, and I'm not gonna paint that yellow. I'm going to sort of leave an oval shape for the area where the sun would be, and I'm gonna start with my yellow rays. So I'm just going to sort of kind of in my head think about where I want that oval sun to like come from, or the rounded shape to come from. I don't know if you can see, I sort of made myself an area where I want to keep that white, and I'm kind of just going to pull this out at an angle, being careful with those words, of course. I'm never going to do this the same way twice. Yours is not going to look like mine. It's not going to look like your friends. So I'm just taking that yellow paint and I'm pulling it out. The other thing that you can do, which I did when I did my original one, is take a baby wipe or a good quality paper towel, wet and drip and squeeze, and kind of like just fade that a little bit. Don't wait too long because your paint will start to dry. I think I need a little more yellow down here. Excuse me. And same thing. I'm just going to kind of blend it a little bit. All right. Then I'm going to take my orange next. I'm going to be careful because I don't want too much. You also may want to dip your brush in a little bit of water. Sometimes I feel like that helps to make it flow better. And I'm just pulling it out. I started up away a little farther from when I had my yellow initially. I can always go back and add some more yellow if needed. And again, I'm just going to use that wet to blend a little bit. Like I still want to see the lines, but I want to kind of soften it a little bit. And then I'm gonna move on and I'm gonna grab a tiny little bit of pink. Again, I'm starting not where I started with the orange. I'm backed up just a little bit with that. You'll get just a little paint pot of these colors. You need very little to make it work. And the very worst thing that happens is that you stop, let it dry, or wipe it off with a baby wipe, repaint with your white, regroup. But I don't think you should have to do that. I think this is a fairly easy project. I think I want a little more orange. I'm gonna go back and grab a little orange, kind of start in here. Like I said, no two are the same. This one is not going to look the same as the one that I had posted. And then once I have that, I'm gonna grab just a little bit of purple. Same idea. I'm back away farther than where my pink was. Mute that out a little bit. I think I need some more in there. I think I need a little more pink. I'm kind of going on an arc as I pull these away. And And then I'm gonna finish off with some blue. I'm gonna do the blue in here, maybe a little, might look a little heavier to you. And you don't have to worry about that cross part. That's where we're going to be gluing. Once I get this blue blended, then I'm gonna get quite a bit more blue. I'm going to actually take my baby wipe, get some blue on it, and kind of come in here with the rest of my sky. And then I'll take my brush back, and again, kind of I'm gonna turn around and see what I think. And with my first one, I think I had these a little more closer together. I'll post a couple different versions so that you've got some examples to look at. I think I want to soften up my blue a little bit here. I'm just grabbing a tiny bit and I'm coming back and blending that up. And I think that I may add a little more yellow in here. Oh, I have some blue on my brush. That's okay. I use the same brush. I've just been swishing it in water. There we go. Yeah, I think I needed a little more yellow down there, and I think I'll hit it with a little wee bit more orange. This is something that you could practice ahead of time on a piece of paper even if you wanted to, just to sort of give yourself a little practice ahead of time. And just, play with it until you are happy with what you've created. And again, I think the trick is sort of getting it on there, blending it a little bit, remove if you don't care for what you did, okay? So there's my background. And what we will do then is I'm going to take my cross. I'm gonna come back to that brown, and I just kind of came in with a paintbrush and added a few more details. Now, the gel stain is a little thicker than paint. It might take a little wee bit longer to dry than paint, but I think this really adds a nice detail on there, just giving it some, a little more character, a little more realistic wood look maybe. Yep. So quick and easy brush strokes. I'm just going right off. I'm not being careful, but I am just trying to go up and down. Okay, so just a little something extra that you can add on there, and you will have to let that dry. Okay, all right, so on my frame, I'm going to just take, I have wood glue poured out here on a plate. I'm just going to dab this onto my frame. Okay, so I've got wood glue dabbed on there. It does dry a little bit colored, so if you have any drips, you want to try and just, make sure that you take care of that before they're fully dried. Bring this back in here. It just takes a second to sort of orient yourselves till you get it to the right spot. I just sort of feel it with my fingers till I get it in the right location. And if you have extra paint that is showing on the edges, you can, like I said, sand that or come back with some paint and cover that up. So I'm going to press this for a minute. Get that held on there. Okay. All right. While that is firming up, I'm going to flip it over and show you how to attach the back. So you have these pieces for your easel. What you want to do is you want to get this centered and at the bottom so that the feet are just touching the edges of the oval. And you really want to make sure that you're straight. Then this is the piece you're going to glue first. So you will take and get your wood glue on the back of your stand. And then we're going to orient this by just slightly lifting this up and putting it so it's centered where the arms are. So I'm just holding it at the bottom, lifting this up in the air and locating that so that it is centered. I'm making sure this is at the edge. You've got a little bit of wiggle room with the wood glue. It's not going to dry right away. So you have time to maneuver that if it shifts. Okay. Once you've done that, you're going to put wood glue on the bottom of one of the sides, and we're going to put it into the slot. Now this may not dry right away. You will have some time where you're gonna have to make sure it stays in position before you stand it up. Then you need to get this arm into the circle, and I will add some wood glue to the bottom of the other piece. And then that is going to go through the other arm and then down into the slot. So this will take a little bit to dry. I'm gonna flip it over so that I can show you the cross part, but that is the gist of it. You are adding the arms one at a time through the two side pieces. You have to do one, then the arms, then the other side, okay? All right, so this may not stay. Yep, we're good, okay. All right, so for our cross pieces, we're almost done. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to add the wood glue to the back of the cross. I'm just kind of going in the center. Once this wood glue is dry, it's fine. You don't need a ton. And I'm going to line this up with covering the scored spot. That scored spot is slightly smaller, so it will not show. Okay, and then I will be gluing my cloth pieces so and like so. So I will just go ahead and glue those. So that is our piece, and it is one of my favorites this year, and I hope you enjoy making yours. Thank you.